Thanks,
Awesome. Woohoo.
Good to see you all again. Crypty, Pulse Ray, and Cabana.
Good to see you, Max.
We're literally talking about the identical thing you guys were talking about on screen in the green room. We're like trying to figure out giftware, iBurn, all that stuff from Kinetics. And then we get into the waiting room. We're like, oh, well, they're answering all the questions.
Kinetics is talking about iBurn.
In the green room.
So good.
Yeah.
I've been fascinated with it. I mean, you heard me speak about it, but yeah, that's one of the few projects that I've seen come out where the principles, the tech, the chart, if you look at the chart, not too bad on the eyes as well. And I certainly hope it succeeds in this ecosystem because it looks pretty special to me from my interactions with it so far.
Any chart like that right now looks special. So I would not suggest maybe aping right now, but who knows? It could just keep going to the moon. You never know.
The phrase from that, again, I'm not no financial advice, but it's like every time I see somebody say, "Oh, is it going to dip? Is it going to dip?" You just every day you look at the daily chart and it's just like it just keeps going up, and it's like who knows? I'm sure it's not going to do it forever or anything, but it's one of those charts where if you understand the mechanics behind it, the buy and burns, and just the incentives and the whole circular wheel and the protocols being built on it, it's like, wow, is this actually working? Like in theory, this should work pretty well, but in practice, it's amazing to see. So shout out I'm not part of the team or anything. I just become fascinated with it recently, and that's why I've been creating a lot of content and trying to understand as much as I can. I've been literally listening to every stream I can about it because I'm like, this seems important. Hopefully, history will make that true. I don't like to be wrong either, but it seems pretty cool so far.
Yeah, and I think I was just mentioning, shout out to Kinetics who's in the chat. He has got like a great little 4 or 5 minute explainer on YouTube, and that's like if you just want a crash course in that kind of stuff, go watch that because it's easily consumable. And you know what, you want to learn something quick and maybe get interested, and I'm saying like ape or anything after you watch a little 4 minute thing, but crash course, good little explainer. So
if you'd like to spend 11 hours, there's a playlist on TV. I have about 30 videos on there, and not all of them mine. I've actually added other videos from probably the explainer that you're talking about as well. There's one for iBurn, one for GIF and PGIF and stuff too. But yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. I mean, this is a PulseChain conference, so we're discussing PulseChain coins, and I think I was in a Twitter Spaces yesterday, and like Hexy Bastard said something I fully agree with. It's just he put it for once more eloquently than I. He likes to invest in founders rather than just tokens, even though I know he's a degen. LOL. But that is kind of what can work for you if you search out, research who's behind these things, if you have enough trust in if there are relationships and there's like a longevity there, a history of you guys in the community. Everybody knows like a Kinetics, everybody knows like Crypto Kool-Aid, everybody knows an Axis Alive, everybody knows all the I could just name drop all night long, but there's something behind that in this community. I think there's something to be said for that.
I think there's a line too for, we talk about DeFi. I guess it's your preference for which side of the spectrum. It's one of those, it's again, everyone has their preference, but I think a lot of people also think of it as, okay, I want the founder to be someone who I don't think is going to rug pull, and they have good intentions and they have a track record and all that stuff too. But also, maybe you're okay with the founder having a lot of control over the protocol, whether it's with coins or tokens or not. And maybe you prefer the other way too. Like, well, I just want to be, there's a ton of different verticals and nuance and stuff to that too. But I think to me, what I take away from that is just, I think it's important. I don't know, maybe we pay attention to it more these days just because, we've seen over the years, there's been different rug pulls and there's been different, I always like the phrase, I think Richard said it before, scams that don't know they're scams yet. It's like, try to do the right thing. It just obviously isn't going to work and it just ends up poorly, that kind of thing. So it's, I think I definitely look at it as a spectrum, and it's fine. If you're okay with, having one end or the other, it's not like there's any right or wrong answer, but I think there is something to take away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I will be the first to say, anybody who's ever watched my channel, and I think all you guys and gal. I'm including you and the guys, Crypty. Y'all have been on. I'm like mainly a blue chipper, so I'm like the old school RH coins, but I consider like the bigger protocols like a Fame and PHUX and stuff like that, like things that have been ingrained in the system now for close to a year. Piteous or Piteous. Things have become staples that people use all the time. 9mm is like just launched, so I think that's one that could be, maybe a year from now, people look back on and be like, oh man, just a year ago that launched. So it's that's where kind of my investing style lies. But I know Hexray, Crypty, you guys kind of get out into, I would call the weeds, but you feel way more comfortable dealing and talking with stuff like that. How do you all feel about this ecosystem that has developed?
Yeah, may I? Well, my biggest bag is, of course, with Hex, and it's just like dominating what I hold. And I've been a Hexican for 5 years, which is awesome. I don't diversify a ton because I do believe in the RH core projects. But if I am diversifying, then it's usually supporting Hex. So it's still supporting my bags anyway. So I really appreciate Communis as a token because it's a cashback system for rewarding Hex staking. And then you can continue to stake Hex with the cashback you got in Com if you wanted. Yeah, and the P copies I really support, the paganing of the stables, and that's going to be a huge help for the PulseChain ecosystem. And I'm really interested in the Atropa ecosystem as a whole. Other blockchains, I've just kind of, over the last 5 years, I really just see the most value being in PulseChain. So, yeah.
X-Ray, what do you got, brother?
I would say I'm not really that in. At first, I was really into narratives and utility and that kind of stuff. But recently, I've just been focusing on pretty charts and awesome communities. So PulseChain is a community built up of other smaller sub communities. You got the Tangang, you got DGen Roundtable we were talking about in the green room. You got Matty Allen's Empire of just really, networking. You got Corey Costa, who networks outside of our eco chamber, which is great. So yeah, you got Sloth, who can now fill one of your cavities if you need that done.
Congrats, Sloth.
Sloth? Like,
yeah.
Would you want a faster dentist?
The dentist is already pretty slow and painful process. I'm not sure that's a. Maybe he'll make it crypto. Maybe he'll make it there.
Real now.
I don't think his name tag says Dr. Sloth, but if he did, I would have so much more respect for him. He walks in there, I'm Dr. Sloth. He's great. Like, not Randy Hilarski's No Permissions and Solid X, and I mean, I could go on and on and on. The communities are what I think that's what I'm betting on is communities. Because if you have the communities, the charts, the tech, the solid, the diamond hands, those all take care of themselves if you have the right people rallying around the same values or that have the same vision, so to speak, in the future.
In some protocols, it's not even that the tokens themselves or otherwise will become like the biggest winners or the biggest, the greenest of candles. Sometimes you just need products that just lock up TVL. I mean, Cabana mentioned the pH products and stuff too. It's just, I mean, not that their charts won't do fine or anything. I have no idea. I certainly, hope everyone building these things like does really well, and the community gets rewarded and all that stuff. But it's like you almost need these products, and regardless of like how well the price chart does, you need them around to soak up TVL, to give people features and to bring people in who otherwise would never be here.
Yeah, we see a lot of musical chairs right now in crypto. Every round of meme coins or every round of pump and dumps are chasing these little flash in the pans during the bear market. Someone ends up losing their seat and they get angry and they take their ball and they go home. And then the game of musical chairs, shout out to Hexiest Man in the world for the phrase musical chairs. it just seems like that's what we get in the bear market. So instead of like trying to chase and capture meme coins, that's your only choice, that or build, right? So you're either building something, building a brand, building a product, a community, or you're trying to time that get in, get out, get on in the inner circle, get in the right telegrams, buy it before Sami, mentions it, that kind of stuff. Every time Sami mentions a coin, I'm like, too late. Like anytime any YouTuber mentions a coin, I'm like, too late.
It's the signal for the masses, somewhat, the PulseChain masses.
Yeah. I did read a really interesting comment up here by Kyle Cruz. It says PICOSA supply is at 41.5 billion and doesn't inflate. Perfect token to utilize. Does PICOSA not inflate, or is he mistaken there?
I don't know why it wouldn't, because if you burn a Watsa, for example, it's going to have to give you some ICOSA for that.
Yeah. Did you guys see we just barely went under 20K ICOSA last week?
No.
Oh.
Yeah, ICOSA's been around this whole time, and it finally went under the 20K mark of them being burned. Watsas, yeah. Sorry, Watsas. Watsas finally went under 20K. It's taken, I don't know, it's been almost a year and a half, 2 years, right? Since the Watsas came out?
A year and a half, yeah. I want to say that'll be I want to say April, May 2022, or ICOSA. ICOSA was maybe a little bit later in the year, maybe October. So I think Hedron was February, March, somewhere through there, and then ICOSA a few months after that. Yeah, what's this under there?
About 21K, give or take, and it's been about that long for 1K of them to be burnt. So that's a pretty good game of chicken, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's and we haven't got Hedron, ICOSA Hedron. I don't know what to say. I think when I say Hedron V2, everyone knows what I'm talking about. But if I say ICOSA Hedron, which is what I think it'll actually become after this, because that's the shape, those together. I think that'll be the new name. Don't quote me, but I think that's going to be it. And then I don't know if anyone's going to know what I'm talking about, but that project, hopefully, Alex Magicbeard, shout out to our friend Tommy, will be launching this year. That's going to be, again, really good for Hex. Hopefully we'll get the auctions started back up. Maybe iBurn will have an effect for that if it's burning the ICOSA and giving people incentives to do 5555 stakes and stuff like that. We have a lot of exciting things happening this year in the sub ecosystems, in the broader ecosystem. And PulseChain hasn't even, we had a run up, but when next one, Deb? When next one? Like we haven't even we haven't got the 10,000 next yet. So I think there's still room for some cool stuff to happen.
Well, yeah, we've got at least 100 more days of sideways price movement. Well, I wouldn't say at least, but potentially.
And if you're doing LP, sideways can, that sounds like a fee earning to me as well. Like every time I see a position, I'm like, oh, price isn't moving that well. I'm like, I wonder if I'll be able to collect some fees from that particular situation if you're interested in the assets and stuff. So there are ways to make money, even in a sideways market, to Crypty's point. Like there are ways to make money even in a sideways market.
Yeah, LP is where it's at. That's the best way to be earning still through sideways or bear. That's been really awesome.
And our community is so good at it, better than most.
So, or you could use it as an exit strategy, but I tend to skew towards things I like that I think can go up in price together. And if there are good pairs that offer some good yield on that, then you can enjoy the ups and downs and without too much, permanent loss on either side. So,
or if you just don't want to put red candles on the chart, you could just put a position where if you expect the price to go up over time, you're going to get the other side. You're going to get the pulse on the other side.
Exactly.
To pair it with. So it's like, hey, less red candles on chart sounds good to me. And if you can just wait and not have to hammer the button, and earn fees along the way. There's so many next level things that people coming into crypto may not see, and especially if they come to this ecosystem, may not understand until it takes a while. But once you get it, you're like, oh, that's seems like a better way.
Oh, it took me some time to understand it because you were the one that introduced that idea to me, is exiting via liquidity providing. You shared it just over a year ago. And I'm like, oh, that's a really smart way to exit and not print the red candles or be selling against yourself. So
Was
yeah.
that the Axis stream clip from there? I feel like I first talked about it with Axis.
You've talked about it a lot on the streams, and then also I got to meet you all in Seattle in person.
Okay, I wonder if I'm glad that concept is proliferating for sure.
Yeah, so it'll be good to try that out on the dexes in the bull market.
I feel like I'm on the opposite end, down and to the right of y'all, looking at the country. Y'all Northwesters.
Oh yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So Optimality just commented so eloquently, ink in all caps, rocket ship in the chat. No perfect segue, but I'd love to hear you guys, speak on ink for a second, because there's been so many different takes on it, from it's a dump only coin to, hey, I really like it because there was no sacrifice for it. There's multiple angles that people look at this from. There are haters, there are lovers of it. I mean, anyone want to speak on that real quick? Because I just thought that would be a real interesting topic.
Let me jump on the base level, because I'm sure these guys will go deeper than I will. But I noticed that all of the transactions on PulseX buy and burn ink. They go through ink. So technically that would make ink the native coin of PulseX instead of PulseX. The second thing I would say is, obviously you can go buy ink, but it seems like people are all recommending that you farm for ink. So you provide that liquidity on PulseX of PulseX and Pulse, get the ink for free, and then when that sucker pumps or pops, take some bags, take some profit out, and just repeat that cycle. It's a fairly cool little cycle you can jump into. That's my understanding of ink at this point.
Mm-hmm. Max, do you want to go?
Sure. I mean, I've definitely talked about ink a lot on the show, and I've always been intrigued by it. I never bought the dump token. I never thought that was, I mean, inherently yes, but I never thought it would become that, because the liquidity promise of PulseChain is such a big deal to Richard. And otherwise, like, I always knew that it would have to have some value, because you want to bring people in to farm. If they're not making any money farming, they're not going to farm. There's going to be less liquidity, and it just doesn't work. So I knew there would be some reason it would be valuable. And I mean, even I think Richard tweeted, maybe a couple months ago or so, something about it being leveraged on Pulse and PulseX. And it just, it's always one of those, you can see it in the price chart. It's, you have the inflation model. It went up harder than everything else. At first, it went up 70, $80. It went up harder than everything else. It went down harder than everything else. It had an amazing run. And then when the green candles came again, it went up again harder than everything else. So if I treat it as leverage on Pulse and PulseX, and and it's RH token, so I know it's got a lot of support behind it as far as platforms and stuff go too. I think the question always comes down to, do you buy it or do you farm it? For me, if I have Pulse and PulseX, if you have the tokens and you don't care, again, there's different farms, and you got to figure out the risk, and some are more risky than others depending on your, however you're treating your coins. But if you're going to farm ink and you get it, and it's going to be worth more, if you think it's going to be worth more in the future, and then if you want to buy it, I think the buying part is the compounding. So if you can compound ink in the farms, you have the ink Pulse and ink PulseX farm. If you do indeed believe it's leveraged, and you do indeed believe it's going to go up harder, I think you can make a case for either. It just depends on kind of how much capital you have and how much you want to put into it versus buying, the blue chips. I don't know. I guess ink's kind of a blue chip, but the blue, PulseX and stuff.
It's the D10 blue chip, but yes, I agree with what you're saying.
It's the one that's, I don't know.
The D10 blue chip.
You would classify it somehow.
I just never, I never thought about there being a leverage RH token on RH tokens by RH. And that's what makes it special. It's like this thing, I believe it always has to have value. So if it always has to have value, and the guy himself suggested it could be leverage, I'm like, I don't think the buying narrative is totally totally bonkers like it used to be. It used to be kind of debatable, and now I'm like, well, I don't know. Do you want to earn more ink? Do you want to farm with it? So, anyways, the most surprising thing so far is no one has built on ink in the community. We keep hearing, man, as soon as someone builds on this, it's going to be great. And I haven't seen a lot. I've heard some rumblings, and I've heard some projects. Tetra, we talked about ink staking, and even with GIF, a lot of people are like, hey, if you're going to build iBurn for Icosa, which is leverage on Hex, why not build something for ink that is leverage on Pulse and PulseX that's going to burn ink? Imagine if ink was deflationary. If it got to that point. I mean, that's kind of a stretch, but yeah, like people building on it. So
no, it's not. I don't think it is a stretch at all. Like you just mentioned, Max. We have things built on around Icosa now, so it's like you do that. We'll see how that goes. I think that could work out very cool. We'll see. But like you were just saying, if something could be done around ink, like there are so many different protocols, not even on PulseChain, but where you have something that's built around burning a token. But what if, and I know Briz in the chat is a big fan of the what ifs for ink. What if something were to happen with ink? Not just the use case, which Briz likes to speculate on, but what if it was even burnable? That's exciting to think about.
That is exciting. That kind of blows my mind. I love the idea. The PulseChain community has so many layers upon layers of developers building out things on top of each other, which is so cool because you can stay within the PulseChain world and still not learn everything, still not keep up with everything. But that's a really awesome idea. I like that.
Community doing the work. You do the work. That's what I always took that to heart too. And I was like, man, if we ever have a community that's actually going to succeed and make this thing work without, any knobs turning, just as we need, come, save us, all that stuff. If we could ever have that, it's got to be by people stepping up, putting in the work, whether it's creating content or whether it's building protocols or whatever it is that locks in value for PulseChain. I mean, it used to be a lock in value for Hex and build derivatives, but now it's, PulseChain. And of course, a lot of things are good for Hex too. But like that phrase, you do the work, is just one of the most profound and inspiring and just useful things to internalize. Yeah, that we have.
Oh, I'm so happy that RH has drilled that into the community of no expectation of profit from the work of others. That's just like it. It nourishes my soul because I'm so much an individual led by principle. And so it reminds me of the principle from Atlas Shrugged of, no, you do not live for the sake of another. You put in the work and you get the rewards. That's what it's about. You don't act as a victim. You don't let your life be in the control of another. You put in the work. So yes, that's awesome. And I was looking at our ink token details, and it looks like there's 37,000 holders of ink. And then I was comparing it with PulseX, and there's about 200,000 holders of PulseX. So it's cool that there's a lot more to happen with ink still. And I've just been paying attention to it more recently since the ink pumped from the bottom, because watching the chart before a year ago, we were just seeing red candles, all the way down to 40 cents. I'm like, So it took me the pump to see the value in it when it was rising $1 or $2 each day, $4, $5, $6 every single day. I'm like, oh, wow. So if it can do that, but I don't buy it. I do the liquidity providing and earn the ink that way. So, but buying it's not a bad play.
You made me think of like, maybe it is the dump token when things are going down, and it's the leverage token when things are going up. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to work.
I think that's the pattern.
That's the definition of a leverage token, bro.
Yeah, but I'm trying to fit this in the narrative of, okay, when it first launched, everyone's, this is the dump token. It's not, it's not going to have much value. I remember people talking about, it'd be great if it was $1 or stuff like that. I remember hearing that. And then after PulseChain launched, it went to $70, $80. I'm like, okay, if it's, inverse inflation model, but also in bad times, it's good. Yeah, I agree. It is a leverage token, but also it's like extra. I don't know. I think ink is extra special in this case. And it's like, I think it can fit both narratives too, and not just, not just, you can't, it's hard to hate it when it's going up, but is that just leverage? I don't know.
Well, I think the benefit of ink is the unknowns, like at this low price, like $3 or whatever it is, the unknowns are in favor of the bulls on it. Like there's more good that can happen than bad at this price level. I mean, yeah, we, like Crypty said, we hit like 40, 50 cents, whatever. But at the same time, like if you're looking for leverage in a bull market, like you were saying, Max, like if price go up, you'll probably want to be holding ink over a PulseX or a Pulse. Price go down, you're probably going to want to be holding a Pulse
Swapping into
X
PulseX.
or Pulse instead of the ink. So it's
right.
It's tough right now. We're kind of in that phase of the market where I think you're going to want to hold ink. Who knows for how long? Thoughts, Hex Ray?
I had a big brain question for Max, which was,
Let's do it.
If PulseX brings on single-sided liquidity, does it have to have a V3 to do that, or can it update V2? Do you think?
Oh, I think PancakeSwap V2 had the single side staking. I actually did a whole stream about new things that could come in 2024, and I found some of the I found, first of all, a picture of what PulseX, like the very first versions, looked like. Richard posted a long time ago, and it was literally looked like PancakeSwap, and it was V2 because it's what we forked V2 PancakeSwap, which is the fork of Uniswap V2, and it had the single sided staking. I think it had it there. I think it looked almost just like PancakeSwap looks today, even though the PancakeSwap you look at today is probably the V3 version. So no, I think V2, and then that conversation tied into, we saw some movement on chain about stablecoin swap and stuff like that. And I was talking about like how the new features, everyone's like, oh, where's the new features for PulseX, all this stuff, and how I've talked about before. I think why not time them to come out over time, keep people excited in the right moment when things are going up, all that stuff. What new features could we get? And everyone wants, or not everyone, I should say, lots of people get very excited. The first feature they think of, they think they want at least, is single-sided staking. And I think there's two sides to that. I think one is, well, first of all, ink has become so popular. I think it's taken a lot of the thunder away from Hex even. It's like, oh, everyone wants to get ink, and stake Hex is like, yeah, Hex is the thing, but I'm making all the money with ink, and Hex is, the price is, the price. So in dollar terms, that yield isn't so good and all that stuff right now. So it's like ink is taking a lot of the thunder from that. But if we had single-sided staking, I think somebody talked about this as well. It's one of those, do we want another feature to, is that going to be for ink? Can you single-sided stake ink, or can you only do PulseX? What coins are supported? It's kind of like there's this cannibalization thing going on that could happen too. And it's like,
that's a great point.
How much do we want that to take away from Hex, and how much, do we want to keep Hex interesting? Does it need our help in that way? There's all these questions around that. But anyways, the single-sided staking thing is, if you're able to, I think the reason Richard chose to do the farming and to put everything into that and not do single-sided staking, not prefer at least what he's talked about recently, is because when you're doing farming, you're actually providing liquidity. You're staking liquidity tokens, and you're providing liquidity, and you're getting, you're locking them up, and you're getting, ink for it. You're getting rewarded. That in and of itself helps to, give liquidity to the ecosystem. You have the premier DEX, you have the scalable liquidity, all that stuff locked up, more than all the other DEXs on the chain right now. But if you're just doing single-sided staking, how much is that going to cannibalize on the farming and the liquidity? Because if you want the most liquidity, and you give people another option to put their PulseX there, their ink there, or otherwise, and like which one are they going to choose? So that's kind of the thing too. It's kind of the thing too. Side staking, just to give utility to PulseX when it's getting bought and burned. It's happening right now. Do we need that? Like, what's the better trade-off? And it sounds like at least the PulseChain devs have chose the better trade-off for now is just to have it the farming, because that's what actually provides value to the ecosystem instead of just giving the token utility. So it's kind of that. Which do you prefer? But, the devs are speaking which they prefer right now, at least. In the future, I don't know. Will there be a limited amount of single-sided staking just to get people excited and feel like, this token does something? Maybe. But I think it'll be a very limited use case that won't cannibalize from the liquidity promise and the whole, thing that, I think the devs really want to promote.
Good thoughts. Good thoughts.
Did I answer your question though, Pulse Ray?
That answered it, and even that answered an even more important question was, which was what are these devs and what do Richard see having value going forward? Like, it's almost like we're trying to meet crypto's needs before they come up. It's like landing a jet fighter onto an aircraft carrier that's being built. We're like, man, I hope it's ready when we get there, when it's time to land. And so it's interesting to see what people are anticipating in the future of DeFi. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, all the copy, so many different directions on that. The copy tokens, we saw the farms for Rat Bitcoin, the Pepe farms and stuff like that. And then they got pulled. And then now we see some of the P copy tokens that are, going up and down and stuff too. That is still, the jury's still out on that. I think, how's the liquidity bonding? Like, how's it going to work out? I still feel like things were kind of tested. Richard, I remember all these tweets too. Like when I have these concepts, I reference them half the time with some tweet that was meaningful, at least in the moment. It was like, oh, sometimes you need to test things. I don't know if you guys remember that one. It's like, well, cool. Yeah, you got everyone from, like, we're all promoting the other tickers right now, but we're testing those, so it's cool. It's like, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. And then that was a big deal for a while, and then it died down. And then everyone's like, totally obviously didn't work. Why would that work? All that stuff. The jury's still out on all this stuff. We have plenty of time, plenty of runway, and plenty of communities that haven't been properly incentivized to come over yet. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen with all the liquidity in the system, whether it gets, bonded by wells and otherwise. So there's a lot of things that are just unknown. And I wouldn't doubt that. I mean, we got Hex and PX, we got maybe, ICOSA, P-ICOSA gets pegged and stuff too. Who knows about what other communities may come over, either support the chain or it's DeFi. So if just enough liquidity gets, bonded there, well, it's not like somebody can say, no, you can't have the same price. That's not going to happen. This is DeFi. So I don't know. I'm curious of more. I don't think we've seen the amazing things yet. I think I don't know. I'm still kind of waiting, but right. I think they're there. I think the potential is definitely there.
Well, speaking of juries, I'm so curious to see the October hearing for Richard Hart versus SEC and what comes out of that. So I think that'll actually be very positive. And I mean, right now is a period of people are too afraid to invest in PulseChain. Those that are on the outside of the community looking in. But Richard Hart being declared innocent and his case being dismissed, that's definitely the sign of the bull market.
I got a chance to go through the entire motion to dismiss, and it is a work of art. I don't know if you all have read it yet, but it is entertaining.
I have not yet.
Oh, it's so good. It literally,
I need to read that. I really need to read that.
It's worth reading. It's worth, if you just have some time, you're trying to kill some time, like on an airplane or maybe not driving because you got to drive, but if you're a passenger, driving and stuff like that, if you got some time to kill, it'll give you hope. First of all, like if you had any doubts, like, man, this case is like, this is really good. This is obviously, they're wrong. The other side's wrong. And it's just entertaining. You get to see like really well written, interesting details. Like you'll learn stuff about the process, and you get to hear like the facts from in a legal perspective that you imagine Richard had a lot of influence on. So you actually get to know the process of, it's got a lot of historical pieces and stuff too, of launches and things and all that. But it's worth
reading. Does he have a time machine?
They do ponder if that happened. That was a SEC thing too. The timeline was like all messed up. It isn't revealed in that doc. Maybe in the future we'll know. He's a special man that was born in a special era to do some special things. So who knows? Maybe he's a time traveler. But it's worth reading, and it's just like, wow, this is I'm definitely excited for October. I think that's the oral arguments and stuff in New York. I'm sure there'll be a meetup there. It sounds like of some sort. And hope to go there and hang out with everyone too, just to support. Yeah, just to support. I mean, imagine if everyone shows up again. We're all respectful. We're all there, just like there for supporting Richard and all that. Yeah. And the people there, the legal system, everyone sees, hey, these are real people who love these projects. They're investors. they're not hurt. They're not victims. You know, they're not. They just want to make sure this thing succeeds. They don't want their fair shot being taken away by a bunch of paperwork that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
a show of force, if you will, but in a very like a show of support, like not a show of force, a show of support.
Yeah,
from
just
everyone.
visually, just the judge and the jury looking at a room full of investors and supporters of Richard Hart. That just visually is a lot of influence without them saying anything, without the audience saying anything. And that will certainly play a part in the judge's ruling. And then also everyone who shows up, you're being the change you wish to see. You're participating in restoring what's good and true, and helping to restore freedom in crypto for the whole crypto space. That's what we want.
Even if it's just a hearing, like you were saying, Crypty, like the optics of it, to even have to have the courtroom moved to a bigger room, which I've heard is a possibility if so many people show up. And, you know, the SEC is going after, you know, everybody who has been wronged in crypto. Well, if, you know, and there's an overflowed courtroom and you have to change venues within that building, I guess.
I've been righted, bro. Don't touch my bags. I've been righted, not wronged.
You have to change courtrooms to fit more supporters in there. It's just
good for publicity.
Where are all the people that have been wronged? It's just the SEC yelling at an empty room. Well, now they're going to have a full room of people, hopefully well dressed. So shout out Yoshi. You know, present yourselves well if you go to this thing. You know, wear some nice threads, and you know, be respectable, presentable. And I don't have to say that to this community. You know, we have a great.
But we can pull it off. We can absolutely pull that off. Personally, I won't be able to head over to New York, but I'll be sharing it on social media for all our East Coast friends. And it's something where it's like we all have to participate in restoring freedom and instilling freedom. So in 20 years from now, if we're going to have a beautiful world and a beautiful earth, if we're going to all enjoy our freedoms and not own nothing and be happy about it, then this is like a huge part in in that future. We want to participate so we can have a beautiful future for our children. Sorry, I'm very passionate about it.
That's October 24th. Is that the date?
Yeah.
I'll have to double check.
I think it's October 20th. That sounds right.
Yeah,
and then
for October 24th, I believe. And just shout out, I know Corey did it last night, Corey Costa, but shout out Nuclear Herbs. Follow him on Twitter. Just, I mean, great legal analysis. You know,
get well soon.
Okay.
Get well soon. You know, that's just a great account. He doesn't do it, you know, to get clout or anything from it. He enjoys doing it, and he provides just great analysis for whatever filings are made. So
yeah, he literally is one of the people. I was going to say just for him too. He's one of the people who's, again, you have this talent, you have this thing you want to do, you want to contribute.
Yes,
goes out of his way. We got a resident, you know, former lawyer who goes out of his way. He doesn't have to do anything. He doesn't have to talk to us. Doesn't have to stand up for anything. I mean, who knows if he has a little bag or a big bag, whatever. But he's like, no, I see something wrong. This is not right. Like we're fighting. We're on the right side. So like, how can I help? That's like another.
He can offer clarity on something that, you know, so many people in this community want to learn more about and understand. And like you said, he just, you know, it's
how wonderful. That's really good. Max, would you do us a favor and retweet after the stream? Would you tweet out the case dismissal document so that we could just find it pretty easily?
I think the one that when I read through it, I actually took pictures of like some key things and made some notes, and I think I can even retweet that one because it actually has my notes in it too.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'll definitely do it.
Because I'm thinking too, this document being very educational and making such good points, we can all send that to our state leadership too, like our representatives, our senators. And if they have any bills having to do with crypto in their coming legislative sessions across all the 50 states, then this is going to be a good document for them to look at so they can really get a good understanding of what crypto is.
That's a great point. Yeah, I think Nuclear Herbs has actually talked about some senators and stuff to reach out to. But I wonder, yeah, I kind of want to ask him too, like, how could we phrase, if we did send it to each, each of our states, leaders and stuff, how could we phrase it to be like, hey, would it just be, hey, if you're working on crypto legislation, here is a course in all the things that that should, that could go wrong, and that have been righted, and all that stuff. I wonder how to make it onto their desk and for them to use it, because that's important too. But yeah, great idea.
I would start with that it's inevitable crypto will come up in your state legislature, whether it's a topic about CBDCs or decentralized distributed ledger technology or blockchain. Something eventually it's going to confront every single state legislature if it hasn't already. So it's something they have to educate themselves about, and we want them to get the right education. So yeah, just starting with this is something that's going to be coming across your desk. So I think they would be open and to receive that.
Yeah, I don't think it's at that level to where public officials a lot of public officials are informed on the issues. While we're talking, it's a great little segue. I'll just go for a minute here, but I had the pleasure of seeing Funding Jim and Rags to Riches in Mar-a-Lago last week, I believe it was.
That looked fun.
It was just really interesting to me because just watching how Trump interacted and the way he spoke with certain leaders, disagree with them or not within the crypto community. I think it was an eye-opening experience for him, and he came out of that. You can go online and see all the posts on X. I think his eyes were really open towards crypto, and he's like, out of the two choices that are likely to face each other, I know RFK is like a pro crypto too, but he just kind of took the leap last week and was just like, you know what, I'm your pro crypto candidate. He finally got it. There were great questions asked. I think B Roots asked one. There was Goggle Guy who's gotten memed or whatever asked a great question. He's like, hey, we're gonna lose all this innovation. It's going to go overseas. It's going to go to China. Even Ryan Selkis spoke about it on stage when Trump was there. He's like, we need this in our country. Otherwise, all this money, and that spoke to Trump, I think, is like all this money is going to leave this country. And that spoke directly to Trump. And I think I read somewhere else where they flew down together. I think Selkis and the founder of Minnect, I believe, Polygon. And Trump asked him, maybe 3-4 dozen questions, and was actually legitimately trying to learn about crypto. And by the time they all spoke on stage, granted for a minute with the other two guys, it just felt like a really good moment where it's like, okay, you want a candidate. If you're a single issue voter, I don't really get on that side, but if you are a single issue voter and you're pro crypto, I think he kind of made that pretty evident. So it was good to see, and good to see obviously Funding Jim and Rags at that event. And it was just, I hope that was a turning point, especially for politics in America.
That's hopeful. That's really good to hear.
If you guys go back and watch that stream with Funding Jim and Rags to Riches is sweating so bad he looks like he caught it. He looks like he caught a murder charge. Like he just his hair just flopped over his forehead.
Was that at Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah, I'm like,
it was like 85, 90 degrees outside, and I mean, all the guys are wearing suits and were just sweating profusely.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for the women because they're all in these like black dresses, high heels, like to get into certain areas or like to walk around the premises. It was just, it was odd. Hopefully the next time they do it, it's like fall or something in Florida, or winter or something, because May, it was oof.
But if you guys have the time and energy and money, go over to both Rags to Riches
Yes.
and Gary Funding Jim and KG
KG.
they're all participating and competing in something called Minnect.
Yep.
And that's
We have like a week left, right?
Yeah, Patrick Bet David's. He's got this empire of media and really awesome, business minds and network. And he threw this, contest together, and they're like almost like 1, 2, and 3 with like Tulsi Gabbard and like these pseudo celebrities where people pay for a question and then they dig in and give you an expert answer and they raise money. And I know that Rags to Riches is giving all his money back to his community because he just wants to get that influence. He wants PulseChain to make a splash in these other social networks. So go definitely support those guys.
Yeah, just want to say it's far more than just this Minnect thing, because after I communicate with Rags more often than most others, as well as Gary Funding Jim. But just speaking with them over the weekend, this is going to go far more than just this Minnect thing, Minnect. Pulse.
Are you having trouble saying the name?
Yeah, Minnect. I'm trying to spell it out for people because it's like Minnect. What? But yeah, just go to their profiles, Rags to Riches, or Funding Jim, KG. They're all on there, and this is going to go far beyond that. They want to network. This wasn't a Trump event, 1 week only. Like they want to reach out more Patrick Bet David channels. That just think of that on a grander scale going forward, month by month. Funding Jim is just a master networker. So if you want to support these guys, and he I think he's already said he's giving back like different souvenirs from the event, and the $10 does not matter to them. It's like a cup of Starbucks or whatever y'all get. I don't drink Starbucks. Or cigarettes, maybe 2/3 of a pack of cigarettes now, from what I've heard from Hexy Bastard or something. But
oil change in the 1990s. I mean, there's a lot of things.
In the 90s, yes. Yeah. Or maybe a Big Mac meal nowadays, but $10.
Just the burger.
Yeah, I think Rags and Funding Jim, at least Rags was right up there with Tulsi Gabbard, who could be,
he's doing really good.
She was on Joe Rogan the other day.
Yeah, ridiculous. And PulseChain community members are in the top 3. All they got to be is in the top 3 to get into the dinner room, and then that's that networking event. And then what else can happen? Maybe they make connections from there, and then that's just one event. But from talking to Rags and Gary, this is an ongoing effort, guys. You have such great community members. They're putting a lot of time and effort behind the scenes. It's not just Sack Daddy and stuff like that. It's a group effort.